The alarm cut through the trading deck before I even finished tightening the last bolt on the cargo clamp. Red light. Boarding alert. My hands went still for half a second, just long enough to feel my heart pick up speed, and then I moved. My name is Daniel Ashford, and until that morning, I was nobody. A maintenance hand on a Confederate trade station called Halverin Reach, one of maybe 30 humans allowed to work this far from Earth. We were new to the galaxy, untested. Most species here treated us the way you treat a dog that showed up at your door speaking full sentences. Interesting. Harmless. Not worth a second thought. I grabbed my tool belt and ran for the loading bay, because that was where the noise was coming from, and that was where she was standing. Princess Elira Venn of the Doran Compact was not supposed to be anywhere near a maintenance level. She was supposed to be 3 floors up, in the diplomatic suite, being introduced to the prince her family had arranged for her to marry. But an hour earlier, in front of half the trading floor, she had walked straight past that prince, pointed at me while I was fixing a broken conveyor line, and announced that I was her chosen companion. I still didn't understand why. Maybe it was rebellion. Maybe it was boredom. Maybe she just wanted to watch her father's face turn a new color. Either way, by the time the alarms went off, I had gone from an anonymous repairman to the single most talked about human being on the station. And now something was trying to break onto the Reach, and she was standing near the breach point, refusing to leave. I found her exactly where the reports said she would be, arms crossed, chin lifted, staring at a scorched airlock door like it had personally offended her. Elira was tall, pale blue in skin tone, with eyes that shifted color depending on her mood. Right now they were storm gray. "You should not be here," I said, catching my breath. "Neither should you," she answered. "Yet here we both are." The airlock groaned. Something on the other side was cutting through the seal with a tool that sounded like a dentist's drill the size of a truck. Station security was still 2 decks away, delayed by a jammed lift, which meant for the next several minutes, it was just us. "Who's coming through?" I asked. "Raiders," she said. "Von clan, most likely. They track marriage announcements. A princess without a settled match is worth a great deal on the right buyer's list. So they're here for you." "They are here for me," she agreed. "You should go." "I didn't go. I want to be honest about why. It wasn't bravery, not the movie kind anyway. It was something quieter and older, a feeling that had been sitting in my chest since I was a kid, growing up in a world that never let anyone feel fully safe. Something in me simply refused to leave a person standing alone in front of a door that was about to open. The seal gave way with a metallic shriek. Smoke rolled in. 3 raiders stepped through, tall and armored, moving with the calm confidence of people who did this for a living and had never once lost. Elira straightened her spine and began speaking in her formal court voice, the one meant to remind attackers exactly whose daughter she was. It didn't slow them down at all. The lead raider raised a restraint cuff and started toward her. I stepped in front of her. The raider looked at me the way you'd look at a house cat blocking a doorway, mildly annoyed, not concerned. That was his mistake. I am not going to pretend I know exactly why humans are built the way we are. Our scientists back home have theories. Something about millions of years of surviving predators bigger than us, ice ages, diseases, wars against each other that never fully ended, and a nervous system that learned to do more with less. All I know is that when that raider reached for me, my body did something my mind hadn't fully decided to do yet. I moved sideways, caught his arm, and used his own forward momentum to put him into the wall beside the airlock. It happened in under 2 seconds. He slid down, stunned, cuffs falling uselessly from his hand. The second raider paused, just for a moment. Just long enough for me to close the distance and knock the weapon from his grip before he understood what was happening. Elira's eyes went wide, not with fear, with something closer to disbelief. The third raider was smarter. He didn't come at me directly. He reached for a small device on his belt, something meant to disable a target quickly and quietly. I recognized the shape from station security briefings. A short-range stun tool, painful but not lethal, the kind raiders used when they wanted their targets alive and undamaged for resale. He fired it at me. It hit my shoulder, and I felt the jolt run through my arm, sharp and burning, the kind of thing that should have dropped me instantly. Instead, my knees buckled for a heartbeat, and then, somehow, I was still standing, still moving. Human bodies, it turns out, carry a strange kind of stubbornness. Our doctors back home call it adrenaline. Out here, apparently, it looked like something else entirely. I closed the gap and the fight ended a few seconds later, not because I was fearless, but because I was simply harder to stop than anyone in that room expected. By the time station security finally arrived, all 3 raiders were secured, and I was leaning against the wall, breathing hard, my shoulder aching, adrenaline still running hot through my veins. Elira stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. "Your scans," she said quietly. "They listed you as unremarkable. Standard human physiology, low combat rating." "I'm a maintenance tech," I said. "I fix conveyor belts." "You just took down 3 trained raiders with your bare hands and a stun bolt to the shoulder that should have put you on the floor." I didn't have a good answer for that, so I said nothing. Word spread through the station faster than the medical team could patch up my shoulder. By evening, the diplomatic quarter was buzzing with a very different kind of conversation. Delegates who had barely glanced at humans before were suddenly requesting files, scans, historical records, anything that might explain what had just happened in that loading bay. I was called before the station's diplomatic council the next morning. Elira sat beside her father, the Doran ambassador, a stern old man named Baron Kale, who had spent the entire meeting looking at me like I was a puzzle he hadn't solved yet. "Explain to us," Baron said, "how a low-ranking human worker overpowered 3 armed raiders without serious injury." I thought about lying. I thought about downplaying it. In the end, I decided honesty was simpler. "Where I come from," I said, "life doesn't go easy on anyone. We've survived predators, plagues, wars, and each other, for longer than most species get the chance to. I think somewhere along the way, we became difficult to put down. Not because we're strong in the way your soldiers are strong, because we don't know how to quit." The room went quiet. Elira's suitor, the prince she had walked past the day before, spoke up from across the table, his voice sharp with irritation. "This changes nothing. He is still an unregistered species with no political standing." "He saved my daughter," Baron said slowly. "In a corridor your own guards were 3 decks away from reaching in time." The prince had no answer for that. Elira stood, and the room turned to her. "I chose him yesterday as a joke," she said, "a way to embarrass my father and avoid a marriage I never wanted. I will not pretend otherwise. But today, I understand something I did not understand then. I am keeping my choice, not because it is convenient, because it is right." The council chamber erupted into overlapping voices, some outraged, some curious, a few outright fascinated. I stood there with my shoulder still throbbing under a medical wrap, listening to an entire alien government try to figure out what to do with a species they had underestimated for years. Later that night, Elira found me on the observation deck, staring out at the stars while the station hummed quietly around us. "You could have let the guards handle it," she said, standing beside me. "I could have," I agreed. "I didn't want to." "Why?" I thought about it honestly before answering. "Because you were standing alone in front of a door that was about to open, and something in me wouldn't allow that." She was quiet for a long moment, watching the stars the way I imagine her people had watched them for 1,000 years before humans ever built a ship capable of leaving our own solar system. "They will study you now," she said. "All of you. Every human on this station, and back on your world. They will want to understand what you truly are." I could have told them for free, I said. "We're not fragile. We're not harmless either. We're just very good at not staying down." She almost smiled at that, the first real one I had seen from her since we met. "My father wanted a groom who was powerful," she said. "The council wanted a groom who was safe. I chose a maintenance worker who fixes conveyor belts, and he turned out to be more dangerous than every soldier in this station combined." "I'm not dangerous," I said. "I just don't like watching people I care about get hurt." "That," she said, looking at me directly, "is exactly what makes you dangerous." Somewhere below us, the raiders sat in a holding cell, station guards reviewing footage of the fight over and over, trying to understand what they had witnessed. Somewhere further out, On 100 other worlds, reports were already spreading about the quiet, unremarkable species that had somehow survived everything the universe had thrown at it, and had never once needed to be fierce to prove it. Elira had chosen me on a whim, in a moment of rebellion, expecting nothing more than a small act of defiance against a marriage she despised. She had no idea what she was truly choosing. Neither, if I'm honest, did I. But standing there on that observation deck, watching the stars with a woman who had just rewritten every assumption her people held about mine, I understood one simple truth clearly for the first time. We were never the harmless ones. We were just the ones nobody had bothered to test yet.